Expected points, clean sheet odds, and who is the best captain. This video has got all of the information you need to know ahead of game week 11. Alright, so we're going to do what we usually do on the Ultimate Guide videos. I've got expected points here courtesy of Fantasy Football Hub, and I'll leave a link in the description below to Fantasy Football Hub. The way I do this, we go position by position. I look at one game week and then I look at 5 game weeks time, because I think it's useful to know who the top players are in each position for the next game week. But I think if you're making transfers in FPL, you need to know sort of 3 to 5 game weeks. I would make a transfer with 3 to 5 game weeks in mind anyway. So what we've got here is goalkeepers for game week 11 in isolation. David Raya is top. He's got 4.2 predicted points against Sunderland at home. Sanchez second. Areola, Sells and Pickford are your other top goalkeepers. I just think he's up to 5.8 million now, is David Raya. He is probably going to be the top scoring goalkeeper in the game, just on the fact he's going to keep a load of clean sheets. But the question I've asked myself in the last couple of weeks, I have Raya at the moment, but because he doesn't really get saves points, doesn't get defensive contribution points or attacking returns, he's just sort of 6 points a game. Now, this is a very luxury place to be in, I guess, but I'm asking myself the question, should I double up on Arsenal defenders like Gabriel and Timber and then have another goalkeeper, one that's more likely to get like saves points? Because the best goalkeepers in FPL, right, are ones that get an average amount of, like, traditionally, ones that get an average amount of clean sheets but make the saves bonus points every game. Like Jordan Pickford traditionally is the top scoring, I think last couple of seasons he's been the top scoring goalkeeper because he ticks that box. Everton are like sort of just mid-table defensively, but he makes so many saves and penalty saves that really helps rack up his points total. So yeah, I think Jordan Pickford, he's 5.5 million, so he's not exactly a value goalkeeper anymore, but just something like that is going through my head around goalkeepers. Over the next 5, it isn't actually David Raya that's the top keeper, it's Marmardashvili of Liverpool. 4.3 million, he's currently starting for Liverpool, kept a clean sheet, and looked actually, I tell you what, he looked pretty good against Villa. Did he keep a clean sheet? I can't remember now. I might be mistaken there, but he did look good against Villa, made a couple of really top saves, I thought. David Raya is in second. Again, I think that might be down to the fact of just his clean sheet points rather than saves. I feel like if Marmardashvili keeps a clean sheet, he's probably making 3 or 4 saves to do it with like how many chances Liverpool are conceding. Donnarumma, I think he probably ticks the same boxes as David Raya, really. They're going to keep some clean sheets across this season, but I don't see him. He's going to make big saves, but I don't see him making that many saves. Nick Pope in Newcastle, I think Nick Pope's decent. The only thing I would say about Newcastle is away from home, they're just pants. That was proven again. They lost to West Ham, one of the worst teams in the league away from home. But at home, I back Newcastle to beat and keep a clean sheet against anyone. It's just targeting him for the home games. And I don't think you can necessarily do that with a keeper. And then Rob Sanchez is there as well. Chelsea, actually, next couple of fixtures, Wolves and Burnley, really good. He could be a decent shout, to be fair. Moving on then to defenders, and it's an interesting list. Basically, we've got Gabriel as the top defender. I mean, he is just simply the best defender in the game, isn't he? 40% owned now he is. I mean, he can get returns through every means in FPL right now, right? Assists from like flick-ons from set pieces, goals, obviously, from set pieces, and defensive contribution points and clean sheets. So what's that? 4 potential ways of scoring points. It's just ridiculous. And I don't think it's a question of should you have Gabriel. It's almost a case of how much does he go up in price by until he's no longer worth it. I think he's worth 7 million to me, to be honest, at the moment. 4 Chelsea players after that. They've got Wolves at home. I think given the position that Wolves are in, they've just sacked their manager. I don't think they're going to get a new gaffer in by the weekend. And even if they do, I'm not sure there's going to be a bounce to the point where they beat Chelsea. I think Wolves are the team to target. Chelsea playing them. Certainly looks like Cucurella, Chalobah, James and Tosin are going to be the starters for them. So yeah, I don't know why I did the transition there. But yeah, I think Chelsea look pretty good for a clean sheet. Over the next, well, rather than the next 5 game weeks, sorry, it's a little bit messy with the graphics. Over the next, well, 5 weeks will go later. But these are cheap defenders. It's a little bit dodgy with my words then. But cheap defenders. So what I've done here is filtered 5 million and below. I think when you're looking at the defenders, we're looking at ones on the majority that are above 5 million. But here we've got 5 million and below. And it's just interesting, I thought, to see who's there. We've got Tosin of Chelsea, Romero, Michael Keane, Gahey and Diouf of West Ham. To be honest, I think of this 5 that I'm looking at here, Gahey is probably the one I would go for. I'd also shout out Chris Richards as well. I think Chris Richards seems to be averaging more DEFCON points than Gahey is, but he's literally offering no threat at all goal-wise from set pieces, whereas Gahey still getting DEFCON. He got it in Game Week 10. Not quite as regularly as Chris Richards does, though, and he does offer more goal threat. So, yeah, Gahey would be my pick if I was to go for one of these 5. Over the next 5 game weeks, well, I think this just further proves the point that Gabriel is the best defender in the game, doesn't it? He is by far and away the best defender in the game. Virgil van Dijk is second. I think once they get the Man City fixture out of the way, to be fair, Liverpool fixtures do turn. They get really good. And yeah, I think I'll do well in those games. Then we've got Chalobah and Cucurella, 2 Chelsea defenders. Interesting actually to see Chalobah ahead of Cucurella in terms of predicted points. Something tells me that might be like somewhat fueled by defensive contribution points. And speaking of defensive contribution points, the leading player in the game right now for DEFCONs per game is Senesi of Bournemouth, and he is up there as well. So I think these are obviously the more expensive defenders, but I think if you have 2 of this 5, I think you're in a pretty good place in the game going forwards. Midfielders, and for game week 11 in isolation, Saka is actually the top midfielder pretty much. I think all of the 11 game weeks so far, I've saw 10 previous to this, I've seen Salah has been the top midfielder for expected points. So it's rare to see anyone overtake him, but that has happened with Saka. And I'll be honest, he's not been great in terms of FPL points over the last few weeks, but he did have some good chances against Burnley. And yeah, I back him to still do something, and hopefully, because I've got him in my team, hopefully he takes the next penalty. Outside of that, we've got Enzo Fernandez, who's playing Wolves at home. I think Enzo Fernandez's predicted points they're reliant on him playing a more advanced position, which I don't think he has been doing in recent games. But yeah, Enzo Fernandez could be good, especially at Wolves at home. Then we've got Bruno Fernandes, who I think is still the best Man United midfielder, up there as one of the best mids in the game. And then Semenyo, who's got Aston Villa away, dropped off a little bit now in terms of FPL points and goal scoring form. The Man City game's still going on as we speak. He hasn't scored or done anything in that game yet, but at the same time, I wouldn't be massively surprised to see him do something. And yeah, the only thing I would say is it does look like with Krupi Jr. starting for Bournemouth at the moment, there's less room and opportunity for Semenyo as a result. That's just one thing I would point out. Cheap midfielders. So I've done a filter basically 7 million and below, and it comes out with a list of 6-ish million mid-ish midfielders. I don't know how to say it. 6.5-ish million midfielders. That's probably the best way to go. Enzo leads. Then we got Declan Rice, who I actually think was never really considering him earlier on in the season, but looking at his recent points and how he's been getting them as well, attacking returns and DEFCONs, he's got 21 defensive contribution points against Burnley. He could be good value, to be fair. Iliman Ndiaye, he ticks all the boxes. Penalty taker for Everton. Looks really dangerous from open play. And a DEFCON. Not necessarily as much as Declan Rice, but he's definitely got potential for DEFCON. Ismaila Sarr, I think, hit DEFCON in Game Week 10. He's got Brighton as his fixture. I think he could do well against Brighton. I think the fixture suits him quite nicely. And Szoboszlai as well. I think all of these 5, to be honest, are pickable. My personal favourites, though, right now in the game, even though I own Enzo Fernandez, I'd probably say it's Declan Rice and Ndiaye and Sarr, based on the fact that I think Enzo Fernandez is going to continue to play a little bit deeper. I think he's only really good when he's in a more advanced role. So in terms of the next 5 weeks, the list goes Salah, Saka, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo. I think, yeah, Salah might be the top midfielder, but he scored 2 and 2 now. But even then, I still don't think he's worth 14.2 million. The only question it raises is Game Week 12. And we'll get to the end of the video and we'll talk about Game Week 12. Next Game Week, I think, could be interesting because Haaland plays at St James's Park against Newcastle. And I said previously, there are Arsenal is the toughest fixture you can get away from home. And I think the second toughest fixture right now, even though they've just lost to West Ham away, is Newcastle at St James's Park. Just think there's a special factor about them, and that opens things up in Game Week 12. Saka is second. I think, yeah, he's been a frustrating own for me because I sold Gyökeres to get Saka a couple of weeks ago, and in that time, Gyökeres has actually outscored Saka, which is quite frustrating, but I'm going to stick with him. Semenyo, like I said, slightly impacted by Krupi Jr. I do wonder if Krupi Jr. keeps his place, what that means for Semenyo going forward. And then Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo. I personally prefer Bruno Fernandes to Mbeumo from the Man United mids. And then we got the forwards. So Haaland, Mateta, João Pedro, Bowen and Watkins is the order. Erling Haaland's got Liverpool at home, obviously in Game Week 11, which based on how Liverpool have been playing so far, I don't actually think is that bad of a fixture. I backed Haaland to score in that game. He's just put a couple past Bournemouth, for example. Mateta's got Brighton at home. João Pedro's got Wolves. I mean, all of these guys are pickable. For me, though, I'm surprised not to see Voltemada on this list. I think Voltemada should probably be up there. If I was picking 3 forwards in FPL right now, I think I'd have Haaland, Mateta, and Voltemada, I think. Cheap forwards, so I've done a filter again of 7 million in below. Thiago is top, followed by Welbeck, Calvert-Lewin, Strand Larson, and Isidore. I do think genuinely Welbeck and Thiago are 2 pickable forwards in the game. I'd say Welbeck probably has the better fixtures, but I think I prefer Thiago. I think his minutes are going to be a little bit more secure, and he's just a bit less injury prone, I think. So yeah, I think they're both really pickable, to be honest, at their price points, but I think Thiago's my favourite. I'd only really pick those 2 from this list. Over the next 5 game weeks, they look like this. So we got Haaland, Mateta, João Pedro, Gyökeres, and Watkins. Again, I'm surprised not to see Voltemada on this list. I really do like him as an option as well. So moving on from the predicted points, we've got some clean sheet odds. This is courtesy of Solio Analytics. And what we've got here is a view of clean sheet odds all the way from game week 11 to game week 19. So basically the time at which the chips reset. And I think game week 19 is an important milestone in this season because I think it's a point in time when everyone has had to use their first round of chips. And it's the only point where you can actually assess your rank properly. I'm going to talk about my ranking videos because I think it has some level of importance. But because everyone still probably has some chips to use, you don't really know where you stand until game week 19. So it's a good line in the sand to draw. Arsenal are top, followed by Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Chelsea. I think these sort of 5 teams, no surprise, but it's kind of the teams below them that are interesting. And those 3 teams are Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, and Fulham. And that leads me to think there are, defenders from those teams that I'd want to have in my FPL team. Crystal Palace, namely, I think Chris Richards and Mark Gahey. Bournemouth, I think Senesi is a really good shout. In Fulham, I've obviously got Joachim Andersen. So, yeah, that would just be something I'd pull out from the clean sheet odds. And finally, I've just got a totality of the predicted points from Solio. Haaland is top, but remember I spoke about game week 12 and the captaincy for game week 12. Well, Salah's got Nottingham Forest that week. It is next week, basically, in terms of order that I'm making my videos and talking about things. And Haaland plays away at St James's Park. So it's a question of, is it worth picking someone in your team specifically to captain in game week 12, or do you have someone that's a valid alternative to Haaland, or do you just trust Haaland to do the business at St James's Park? Because looking at the predicted points, we've got a number of players that are higher than Haaland, actually. Bruno Fernandes is higher, Saka is higher, Semenyo is equal. I think Mateta has a good fixture in that week as well. I think Mateta plays Wolves away, if I'm not mistaken, in game week 12. So just something to bear in mind. So yeah, the top player for predicted points is Haaland. Second is Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Saka, Semenyo, Gakpo, Sarr, Gabriel, Mbumo, Mateta, Njai, Cunha, Szoboszlai, and Foden. That's your order of top players in the game according to Solio for predicted points. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. And let me know in the comments if you're planning any transfers for Game Week 11. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.